Hello and welcome to the third and final part of the podcast series from Rekoop. We've talked previously about how time recording is on the rise as more firms look to put an end to running blind to the cost of doing business. We've also touched on the changes to the technology that Rekoop are making. I'm joined again by Phil Wedgwood, CEO of Rekoop. And I want to ask you, Phil, where do we go from here? There's been a lot of change over the last 2 years. You're making a significant product shift. Attitudes are changing all the time. Time recording and time seems a very hot topic, but is it all just going to go flat after a while because it's just flavour of the month, or do you expect this to sort of keep rolling, and where's it going to take the profession?
Well, it's a really hard question to answer, but I think, look, it's not going to diminish. We're seeing the traction very much continuing. The momentum will continue. It's pretty damning stuff that still most law firms time record like they did 20 years ago. I mean, that's the reality of it, you know. When we look at our data, it's even more damning than that. I mean, I could get really contentious and say something like your average day of your average lawyer, you know, in terms of their core output, they're wasting half their day. When you actually look at the efficiency of a law firm, it's not great. The systems and the culture and the way that they're mostly not run like businesses gives us the huge market opportunity that we have.
You have figures to back up that sort of
claim? We do indeed, yeah. And that's what I suppose the thing that, you know, we're passionate about is actually creating, you know, some genuine business transformation within the legal sector through the use of innovative technology. And the more we do it, the more we see the opportunity almost getting bigger. And as we touched on last time, the business drivers are changing, the legislation's changing, and that's actually driving in different directions the demand for this type of technology. And, you know, we're not seeing the level of innovation that's required to really nail this from many other places. And that's the exciting opportunity for our business, to continue on the investment and the delivery of innovative products that take away the pain and allow businesses to compete on this new competitive landscape. There's no question that the law firms are becoming more competitive and margins are eroding. Fixed fees are becoming commonplace, and you know, firms need to understand how to run a law firm like a business.
I'll take you back to what you said about lawyers wasting half their day. I mean, I know that Rekoop do trials with new customers as a matter of course.
Yeah.
And so in terms of stats, what are those trials regularly showing? Are they showing a huge disconnect between the hours in the office and the hours actually posted?
Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, that's something.
And what sort of scale?
Yeah. I mean, well, that's something that comes out week one of them using the technology. Is that, you know, let's face it, the statistics show that your average lawyer works a 10-hour day, and you know that will come as no surprise to most people. But what's interesting is that when you look at the billable time people are posting, you're looking at averages of probably half of that. So you then look at the other data that's around that says, well, okay, well, if they're billing half of their time, circa 4 or 5 hours a day, consistently, this is consistent average, then what on earth are they doing for the other half of that day? And, you know, one of the things we see, which is also quite scary, is that the data is very poor for the remainder of that time. So traditionally, lawyers might be able to grab 1 or 2 hours or maybe 3 hours a day of classically defined as non-billable time. But, you know, that still leaves a gap of the other hours. And what we often see is that most firms aren't deep diving into that non-billable time and actually understanding, well, what are the people doing? What are the pain points of the lawyer's day? And how can we get, using this information, how can we transform the firm to increase utilization, increase recovery rates, and make sure that the lawyer is having a happier day. And maybe I think there's actually a cultural problem within legal that lawyers just work 10-hour days, and it's almost expected. And that's that classic, coat on the back of the chair type of culture that exists. And really, few people are questioning it. Few people have the boldness to question it, because, the finance managers, the people in the firms know that they're not getting 10-hour days of billable time, but they are there for 10 hours a day. And I think that's the challenge of a progressive modern law firm, is they really now are acting on that type of information, changing the culture of doing business, changing the way they do business, changing the way that they even bid or not bid for work, and the way they price that work. And that's, it's fascinating to see that after really 5 years of being in the legal profession, I would say that it's only really over the last 18 months to 2 years that these changes are really actually happening.
Now, fee earners may just be recoiling in horror everywhere because they may not see beyond this as being some sort of modern day time and motion study, but this is not a thing to get at them. This is a thing to help. Oh,
absolutely. I mean, look, Rekoop is a tool to help the fee earner. That's absolutely its starting point. The technologies, the interfaces, the architecture is all designed to put the end user experience at the forefront of this whole process. But the reality is, you can't change the output of what is captured. And as I said, the unfortunate reality of the output that is very often captured is that the lawyers are being underutilized for around half of their time every single day. So if you think of it as the engine of a law firm is the lawyers practicing law, they're doing that for around half of the time, and billing that for around half of the time is what we see. So it's a bit like the analogy of a manufacturing company, and their machines only producing goods for half the day.
But you don't expect law firms to then turn around and start, having a go at individuals as to, why aren't you doing more? I mean, you're seeing this in far more progressive terms.
Yeah, I think it is, and even if you look at the shift in the practice management space away from really what were quite simple accounting system views of client accounting and the like, to actually more of an ERP angle, where it is all about utilization and efficiencies of resource internally within that factory, as we could even call it. The challenge is, if I've got talented lawyers sat there for 10 hours a day, how can I make sure they are being talented lawyers and actually delivering valuable output to the clients? And I think there is a shift. Through the recession, many firms have cut the operational support layers to help the lawyers do things like business development or marketing or respond to tenders, administration and things like that. And actually, we maybe need to see a shift, a different way of thinking to protect the powerhouse of the law firm. The billable engine of the law firm is the person with that legal expertise, practicing it and billing it. And when I say billing it, I'm not talking about billing by the hour, by the way. I mean, we don't, just because we're classically referred to as time capture specialists, we don't advocate or even make a correlation between capturing time and billing time. Indeed, quite the reverse. In fact, one of the things that's been really interesting to drive through the market over the recent year or so is the progressive approach to ensure that individual lawyers are absolutely severing the tie between time recording and billing. The two are very, very separate things. But I actually think in reality, most firms still struggle with that. When the average lawyer is entering time on a timesheet, they're actually thinking of billing that client that time. And And that's part of the problem why only 5 hours out of the 10 gets entered in that way, because there's that and many other aspects to it, which we've touched on, in other collateral that's on our website and what have you. But there is a big push for severing that tie between capturing time and billing time. And then going back to the point around the billing piece, that then does enable you to have a much fresher view about exploring much more interesting billing models, and billing approaches to clients.
That's a good. Talking of billing, one of the things that you see a lot is usually in lawyer-penned articles talking about fixed fees and talking about fixed fees and the corollary of that ending time recording, because if we're doing fixed fees, we don't have to time record. I suspect you don't concur.
Well, it's just utter nonsense. I mean, for a law firm, again, and it's played out in the statistics we've already acknowledged, and, for a law firm to not want to track the cost of doing business is just, honestly, it's just nonsense. It's not business. I mean, it's old school law. You see these articles that talk about new law and old law and all that sort of stuff. I mean, look, to me, that's all pretty much irrelevant. It's just good business. You're either practicing good business or you're not. You're aware of your cost base and you're aware of your margins. You're aware of what your people are doing and how effective they are, or you're not, or you turn a blind eye to it. You're aware that when a tender comes in, you can respond profitably or not. And it's all these real obvious basic business things. The business dynamics of practicing law, they're becoming much better understood because we've got this data now in the firm. We can actually see the cost of doing business, the cost of providing legal services, down to a very granular level.
Do you see a time when targets per se won't exist for lawyers? Well,
look, if I was running a law firm, I wouldn't have these targets, because, as we've already acknowledged, that we all know lawyers are sat there for 10 hours a day, but we're giving them targets of 4, 5, 6 hours. And for what? Technology can capture that information. We don't need to rely on humans to do it anymore. That burden on a fee earner, it's a horrible thing to have, actually. To be put under that pressure of constantly recording like a little robot, everything that you're doing, and just recording 6 hours just because that's what the finance director's told you to record, of which, X percent will be recovered and X percent will be billed. I just think in this day and age, we can do much better than that.
So Rekoop is offering a future of no time recording and no targets.
Wouldn't that be great? And I think, again, going back to the vision, if we can automate a lot of this stuff, then we can actually help the lawyer to do what I think they enjoy doing most of all, which is creating client value through delivering, really good, innovative, solid legal practicing, delivering legal advice. That's what lawyers are great at doing.
And customer satisfaction, retention is a far better metric than an arbitrary hour target.
Yeah, because again, if we're in agreement that we're severing the tie between capturing time and billing, again, that targeting, that classic targeting view of, capture me 6 hours, we know that's not working. We know it's not working, and so you've got to question the requirement for it. If you're capturing the cost automatically, and that's a given, then everything else, looks after itself. And you could actually then give a lawyer just a billing target or a value target or an efficiency target in a different way to just capturing, hours on the clock, almost regardless of what those are and how effective they are. Because, not all of those hours are going to get billed, and they shouldn't be billed. Because, again, there is a difference between capturing and billing. And that's the other thing, is you hear a lot about the billing space, is this whole AFA piece. Am I stealing your thunder there? No. Okay, shall I? So yeah, this is the other thing that when we talk about billing, there's lots of articles you read on the wire about AFAs, and you get, again, to me, alternative fee arrangements. Well, what does that mean? That again, it just goes back to, are you running an effective business or you're not? There's no such thing as an alternative billing model. I mean, it's just good billing models. It just seems a bit nonsense again. Do you understand the cost of running your business and the dynamics around that? If you do, then you just overlay appropriate billing models, of which there are many that are out there and recognised, and they each have a place, and you choose, and the emphasis is on then choosing which one of those maximises client value. And that's it, simple. They're not alternative, they're not like aliens that have recently landed. That it's just different billing models that one can explore given different circumstances. So this whole concept of, the death of the billable hour, the death of, traditional billing, and focus on advanced billing or alternative billing, it's all just a bit of a moot point. It's just the firms that get this have been doing this for a while, and it's just effective billing. It's just good business.
Can you give us an example of a progressive firm out there that you're possibly working with, and just how far along they are in their thinking with time and business transformation?
Yeah, look, I think given the forum here, I'd rather not name names, if that's okay, but we've got many firms on our website that people can have a look at and what they've written and what have you, but I think there are a few firms that spring to mind. The firms that are easy to work with and move quickly tend to be the regional, the tier one sort of regional firms, in all fairness. And there are a good few that spring to mind that have got this for some time. And they're a pleasure to work with, and they're actually driving a lot of our innovation.
What are they typically doing? How are they?
Well, all the stuff we've talked about, to be fair. Yeah, they really are. They understand their cost. They understand how to overlay different billing models against that. They understand how to support fee earners in the most effective way so that they can make them, effective and efficient, and also be grown up to know that, guys, look, if you just sat there for 10 hours and 3 of them you're not being that productive, go home. It's fine. Because you can't expect a lawyer to sit there for 10 hours every day in every firm and be adding value. It's actually quite, I believe, unproductive to have that culture of huge working hours constantly to bill, let's say half of that time.
I mean, the picture you're painting there is a huge. The picture you're painting there is a huge cultural shift, potentially.
Well, it is. No, it's not potentially. It is, and there are a lot of firms that I speak to. I mean, gosh, because this is all we do, right? We talk to firms, every single week about this stuff in the boardroom, and there are firms that really just don't get it. Firms that are run by partners that have been practicing law a long time, and they're happy to draw out their 300 or 400 grand a year, and they may be making 60% gross margins or whatever, and they think, do you know what? Why change? Why being real? Why do I need to change that? I'm getting a nice draw every year. The company's okay. We've got 300-year-old clients and we've not changed anything in 300 years type of attitude. So why do we need to change it now? And you know what? That the scary reality is there is a massive chunk of the legal market that is like that. And you know what? We tend to move around the side of those pretty quickly because, let's face it, why as a vendor do we want to push treacle uphill trying to convince firms like that when there are plenty of others that are getting it? And broadly speaking, when we released the marketing messaging last year of the 3 buses, if you remember a third of the market, I think Charles Christian announced that a third of the market has now got on board with dedicated time recording. I think in itself is quite damning, because what that means is that only 1/3 of law firms have bought technology that allows them to understand the cost of doing business. That's pretty damning stuff. So that's changed, needless to say, in the last 18 months. We're now nearly at 50%, which is great. But that still leaves 50%. And, that's a lot. That's a hell of a lot of firms out there that still don't understand what's possible.
But does it come down to numbers in the end, culture aside? Is it about pounds?
I think that firms who don't do anything we've seen consolidation in the market. We've seen some firms go bust over the last couple of years, particularly, and I think we'll see the firms that don't get it going out of business, being mopped up, or quite frankly, their client base just allows them to continue for a number more years. Yeah, maybe another 2 or 3 or 4 more years. But the aggressive firms, the firms that are being run like businesses, will very quickly move across. It's happening. We're seeing it. The statistics aren't lying. This shift is happening very quickly. And in the next year, we'll see well over 50% of firms buying the technologies that allow them to be run like businesses. Because if you look in other verticals, that's what you have to do. Retailers are very systems-driven businesses. You can't do it just with pen and paper and people. You have to have automation. You have to have systems that drive the right processes so that you can become more efficient as a business. And that's, I think, that one of the best barometers to look at in law is, well, which are the fast-moving areas of tech that law firms are buying? And I think you noted in the first podcast that dedicated time recording is probably one of the biggest ones of 2014. And look at the pace of change and the penetration of those technologies. And again, we've acknowledged that really, that's one of the biggest areas of growth in the legal tech space at the moment. So I think it's out there. I think it's been acknowledged.
Thanks, Phil. If you'd like to know more about Rekoop, then please hop along to our website. That's www.rekoop.com. Bye-bye now.